the last show I did a lot of work on the inlay for the rails and the legs. I did make a procedural mistake, and I need to show you what I did here. It's not a huge mistake by any stretch of the imagination, however it does need to be fixed, and I want to show you how to do that. But first I want to take a second to talk to you about a new show that's come out. Two friends of mine, Matt Cremona and Matthew Morris, have started a new internet channel. It's called The Matt and Matthew Show, and it's pretty darn good. I'm going to leave a link below in the description of this. Please check it out and subscribe when you get a chance. Let me show you what I've got going on here. Basically what I did was I forgot that I needed to put a divider in here to go from the front blade to the back rail. And that's going to provide a separation for the two drawers and also give me something to attach the runners for underneath. This is not a big deal, but I need to make sure I do this now before I put the rest of this together. So it's going to go right in the center. I'm going to be working off the center lines on this. So I need to clamp this so it's in the spot of where it's going. Now my intent was to put a divider between here and the back rail. And I was going to be using sliding stopped dovetails for that, but I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. So I'm going to go back to my best friend, my domino. So I've got the two pieces put on here, and I know my width between these two is 32 inches. So I just want to make a mark at the center line, and then I need to strike a line across that. Now I'm going to have to use the domino in a vertical fashion like this. I need to make sure I put the holes in the same spot on each side and then transfer that to the rail itself. So I know that, you can't hardly see it on here, but from here to this point is 10 millimeters, and it's at the exact center of where that domino is going to be. So I'm just going to put this on here and split that line and just draw a line at the bottom of the base here. I'm going to carry that line across. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of wood on here and clamp it to the face of this so that when I go and create the domino mortises, I can slide this back against that and get the registration on it every time in the right spot. I've got a board clamped in with my reference marks on here, and I'm going to be using this as a reference edge. If you're not familiar with dominoes, this is a domino. It's just a small beech tenon, and what I'm going to be doing is cutting corresponding slots in here, which are basically floating tenons. So there's a mark on the bottom of the unit that I use to line up with my reference marks, and again I'm just going to go ahead and make the plunge on these. Well, here's the mortise slots cut for the dominoes or the floating tenons. Those are just going there like that. I don't want to put them in there right now, a very tight fit. I need to cut this middle divider rail, and I need to make those corresponding slots in that, and then when I put the piece together I'll sandwich it in between those two, and that is going to solve my problem. Well, here's how this is going to go together. I'm going to put these dominoes in here. Make sure it's flush with the front. The domino is going to go on this side. And this will be able to capture that in the center. That's real nice and flush on the front. And it's nice and square. Well, this is the piece that goes in the front, and I wanted to make sure I had long grain in the front, not end grain. So this is a divider that's going to go the rest of the way back. And I'm going to be using dominoes for this also, just to put that piece in the front. Just need to make a couple marks, and I'll put a couple more dominoes in there and fix this piece to this board. Well, I've cut the middle divider and I need to place this so it intersects the back rail. The easiest way to do this is to use centers, and I'm just going to use relative dimension. I'm not really going to measure anything. The only thing I did measure is the center line. So I'm just going to put this, and I know the bottom of this rail is even with the bottom of the front rail, and I've got the front blade up here to hold that up. I've got a center line marked on this board, and I'm just going to push this up against there like that, making sure I'm lined up at the center mark. And I need to make a witness mark for that, and also you need to draw a line right here, because that's going to be the reference for where I cut the dominoes. I'm getting ready to cut the mortise for the domino in the back rail, and again, this is all nice and squared up. I've carried my mark over to the front and across the bottom, and again, I'm going to use this as a reference, and then this piece here as a reference. So I'm going to plunge in this way, then I'm going to spin the domino over, line up my marks, and plunge in the other way. So that's what I'm going to use for the back of the piece, and I'll show you how this goes together also. Well, I've got the holes for the dominoes put in here. I'm going to put one in the front, and I'm going to put one in the back. It's going to go on here like this. Now this, in theory, should line up with that and put me right on my center line, which it does. So this is going to be the middle divider for the piece, and I'll add another piece under here to act as one of the drawer runners. I've got the top blade back in place, and I've got my back rail here. What I want to do is make some slots for dominoes in the top rail and the top of the back rail, and that's going to be for a kicker that goes in between the two, and that's going to prevent the door from tipping out when it's open. I'm ready to start the glue up. I'm going to do this in a couple different stages. First I'm going to glue up the back rail, I'm going to finish the front rail, I'm going to let those sit for 3 or 4 hours, and then I'm going to put the short rails on the sides and sandwich everything together. I've already sanded everything down to about 320 grit on the sides that show anyways. I'm just going to go ahead and glue this together. It's pretty straightforward. So I've got the glue up finished, and I'm just checking it for square, and that's pretty darn good. The most important thing is to make sure that the inlay on the legs and the rails line up. Even if it's off just a little bit, it's going to be painfully noticeable. So all my joints have closed up real nice and tight. I know it's flat and I know it's square. So I'll let this sit aside for, like I said, 3 or 4 hours, and now I'm going to start on the other one. I've got the second piece glued up. It's kind of goofy how I had to kind of do it. I had to make sure that this was flush in front and clamped tight, and then I also had to put a clamp across it to make sure that these joints were nice and tight. Well, here's the completed glue up. It came out very nice. It's very square. It's off a little bit, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, but I'm not going to go chasing that. All the joints came together very nice and tight. The biggest thing and the most important is the banding on the rails meeting the banding on the legs. and it's dead nuts perfect all the way around, so that came out very well. The next time up, I'm going to be finishing off some of the details of the rails, and then I'm going to start making the drawers. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have any comments or questions, please let me know. Leave them in the comments section down below, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe.